Bring to order this meeting of Village Park Village Board on April 12th at 7 p.m. And could Clerk Kornecki please call the roll?
Trustee Solella?
Here.
Trustee Cazzone?
Here.
Trustee Murphy?
Here.
Trustee Patrick?
Here.
Trustee Tucker?
Here.
Trustee Wagner?
Here.
President Boltis.
Here. Let's all rise for the pledge and remain standing for a short prayer, please. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Trustee Wagner has a prayer for us. Please remain standing.
Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us to engage in meaningful discussion. Allow us to grow closer as a group and nurture the bonds of community. Fill us with your grace as we make decisions that might affect the residents, staff, businesses, surrounding communities, and all those that enter the village of Villa Park. And continue to remind us that all we do here today, all that we accomplish, is for the pursuit of truth, for the greater glory of you, and for the service of humanity. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Okay, the first order is public comments on agenda items. That'd be items number 5 through 8A. Please, I request that please try to keep your comments to 3 minutes. Okay. Clerk Kornecki, do we have anyone signed up for agenda items?
Yes, Angie Rojek, item 6A.
Good evening, everybody. Can I take my mask off when I'm up there? Okay. Or else my glasses fog up.
I don't think that mic's on.
Hi, I'm Angie Rojek. My husband Tony and I are here. We own Pioneer Garden and Feed on Villa Avenue. We're here because we've been talking about parking on Villa since 2017 now. We've had meetings with staff, police, every commission there is in the village, and have come in front of the board numerous times to discuss parking in the area. This past year, you've not heard from us because the street was quiet. Businesses were shut down and people were staying home. With the return of nicer weather and places opening back up, the parking is becoming a problem once again. We're here because of agenda item 6A, removing the parking spaces along Central. I do understand there are safety concerns that need to be addressed. I sent an email this weekend to all the trustees with several questions, which I'm hoping will be discussed tonight. The main points are, number 1, if those spaces on Central are removed, how will they be replaced? The parking is still needed. Number 2, in March of 2018, 30-minute and 3-hour parking limits were put in place on Villa, but are not enforced. People continue to park out there all day long. Equipment was purchased to enforce these times. Can you please explain why that's not used? Number 3, what happens when the AK Mulch lot is developed into either housing or as part of the recreation center plan? We know that those plans are in discussion. I actually went today to AK Mulch and counted the spaces, and there are 47 spaces that are marked in that lot. There are 24 businesses just on Villa Avenue alone. So one of the answers that we've heard through all these meetings is, where should employees for all the businesses park so that they're not all in front of other businesses? And most of you had said to park at AK Mulch, but if you count just 2 employees per business, which we know that there's a lot more than that, that's already taken up the whole AK Mulch. And we know, that there's a lot more than 2 per business. Now there are more businesses going in on Villa, which is great. We're so glad to see that, but that will require more parking. And the more townhouses were built behind Cortese, which means more cars are going through that area too. And then my last question is, what happens when the post office lot is enclosed by the private business that purchased it? I know that they've been working hard on that, and it looks like that's going to happen soon. Please stop telling us that parking problems are good to have. They're not when you're dealing with annoyed customers every day. We don't like to come to meetings and talk about this. This is not for fun. We're not doing it because we like it. We're talking to you because the decisions that you guys make up there affect our livelihood. We're super excited that there's growth in the area. I'm so glad to see it. We're just really asking for a plan to deal with the parking. Thank you.
Thank you.
Debbie D'Amido, 6A.
Good evening, everyone. I am Deborah Demito, the owner of Demito's since 2002, when the village thought we had a parking problem in the Villa Avenue area. It has increased over the years, and I believe parallel parking on Central creates a safety issue to our children and to all our residents. I feel that there must be a safer solution to provide more parking. Please vote to remove the parallel parking along Central. Safety is priority. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Tracy Gabriel regarding 6A.
Tracy Gabriel. So I come here speaking about 6A as well, purely from a residential perspective. That area right there is nothing but crazy business when there's parking on the side of the street. The road is not wide enough for parking and two-way vehicles. There's got to be a solution other than keeping that parking on that street for us so that we can't get out of our driveway and increase the safety measures that would happen at that area. This includes the crosswalk and the four-way or the three-way stop that was included. The three-way stop has definitely slowed down people. And I know that there is more work to be done with striping and revisiting how the signs are posted and what is visible to be seen by drivers in both and actually all three directions, because you can't see all of the signs as you are a driver, let alone do pedestrians have only one crosswalk and it's not even marked. So there's painting that has to happen, parking issues that have to be looked at, on top of the speed of the vehicles coming to and from Villa and to and from Ardmore. I believe that there are measures that can be taken to slow people down. It is like a highway out there some days. First things in the morning, I can see people blowing that stop sign because you can't see the stop sign with the sun. At night, you can't see the stop signs because there's no light. So there's got to be other ways to fix this. Thank you for talking about removing the parking. I'm not here to harm the businesses, but I'm here for the safety of the residents, the people that do visit our village as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next I have Dan Bear regarding 6C.
Thank you for having me. I didn't even know this was an agenda item. I just happened to come tonight. And the optics seem to be a little off. The gentleman should have known this is the rule. So I would just ask the board to really consider this one. Think about the optics. You're running, you should know the rules, not change them midstream right before you get in.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Terry Wolf, 6C.
Thank you. My name is Terry Wolf. I also want to address the item of 6C with the sale of alcohol and the liquor license for trustees. I just wanted the board to consider what you're doing here. Dan just spoke and said, you know, the optics of this, and certainly you need to be conscious of that. Doing my research on this, I understand that there are 4 criteria which would align the proposed change with the state code and ordinance, so that might seem, all right, wash your hands of it, it's good and done. But still, there's some considerations there for you. First of all, the sale of liquor pursuant to the license would have to be incidental to the selling of food. How will you, the village, then determine if that sale of alcohol is incidental to the sale of food? Is it going to be based on sales? Is there going to be a percentage of sales of which they cannot exceed? And by the way, incidental, if you're not sure, the definition of is occurring merely by chance without intention. Now, I love the business. I like fuel and everything. I have, with intention, gone there, and I've only ever drank. So I'm sure they've got great food. I've had some ice cream, too. But so that's going to be a hard test for that individual trustee to pass. Who's going to be responsible for upholding that? Further on, the issuance of the license is in accordance with all applicable local ordinances in effect where the premises are located. Well, how will you determine if this business is in accordance with the applicable local ordinances? Does this apply only to businesses and licenses that are held by the individual who is a representative for the liquor license? Is this only determined at the same time the trustee is sworn in? What happens if a violation is discovered after the trustee is sworn in? And finally, it also states that a village trustee granted a license does not vote on alcohol liquor issues pending before the board, which seems obvious. However, is there going to be a form that the trustee must sign indicating that they won't vote on these issues, or what's going to stop them from voting? I'm sure their name will still be called when the roll is called. Beyond that, I think we all understand here that the deliberation is really the key component of any discussion, any board decision. So as the board is in here deliberating and deciding on these items, nothing prohibits this individual from deliberating on the issue as well and swaying any one of you into his position. I think this is a poor idea. I think he knew exactly what he was signing up for, and he should have considered that. Thank you for your time, and congratulations to all those who won this year.
Thank you.
Okay, Tony Odo on 6A.
Tony Odo, 211 South Villa Avenue. On Monday, March 29th, I noticed that temporary no parking signs had been placed along a portion of Central Boulevard. I inquired and was told that parking on Central from Myrtle to Euclid was going to be removed permanently. I was confused because at the January 25th, 2021 Village Board meeting just a few weeks earlier, a new parking plan had been unanimously passed on its first reading by this Village Board in front of me. The whole Villa Avenue Business District and adjoining areas. There was input from residents, businesses, village staff, and the Traffic and Safety Commission over a several-week period to create the new plan. This new plan, besides changing overnight parking hours in several lots, removed all of the parking on Central from Villa east to Myrtle. At the January 25th, 2021 Village Board meeting, village staff stated that the KLOA study had recommended the removal of 2 parking spots west of Myrtle due to the new stop sign. Additionally, Traffic and Safety recommended the removal of 2 more parking spots, and that's what happened on that evening. Part of today's agenda is a memo from Assistant Village Engineer stating in the 3rd paragraph, quote, "Since the ordinance passed and the new parking restrictions have been in place, both staff and public have noted continuing traffic and parking issues. May I ask what are those issues and how are we measuring if they have gotten better since the new plan was passed 77 days ago on January 25th? In the same memo, then gives 4 reasons that the staff recommends a change to the new parking plan. Number 1, residents of 3060 Central to have unobstructed access to and from their single access driveway without the need to negotiate parked vehicles. The solution to that is remove only 2 spots directly across from the apartment's entry or parking lot, as Trustee Tucker had brought up on the January 25th meeting. Number 2, minimize head-on collisions between Euclid and Myrtle. Per that, the KLOA study paragraph titled Crash Data, quote, for a 10-year period from January 1st, 2010 through August 2020, a review of the crash data indicated that only 2 crashes were observed to occur within the vicinity of the study area. 3 and 4 I will combine together. It is, quote, lastly, the horizontal shift of Central Boulevard between Euclid and Myrtle, combined with the width of the roadway, results in reduced motorist visibility and increased likelihood of vehicular conflicts. I personally went out and measured many streets in the area. Other than the arterial streets of Ardmore Villa and Summit, all the roads are almost exactly the same width of 23 feet 8 inches or 20 to 23 feet 11 inches. That includes Princeton, Yale, Park Central and Kenilworth, which has much more traffic, are the same width as Central. All 3 allow parking on one side of the street, run on a horizontal shift exactly as Central does. So if you're going to remove parking on Central from Villa to Euclid, you should also consider removing it from Central, from Euclid west to Cornell, on Park west to Addison Street, and on Kenilworth from Myrtle to Wisconsin. Lastly, in his discussion before the vote on January 25th, 2021, Trustee Wagner stated, quote, I would just like to thank the Traffic and Safety Commission for the time they spent on this issue. I think they spent 2 to 3 meetings on this. They did give it good attention and there was resident input. Trustee Tucker wanted to make an amendment to remove 2 more additional parking spots directly across from 306 East Central Apartments. It did not happen. Trustee Cielo had said in his discussion, I don't see taking these 2 spots and eliminating them as benefiting anybody. I've watched that meeting several times, and other than Trustee Tucker's amendment, there is no discussion of revisiting the ordinance, and within 77 days of passing it, it just seems ridiculous. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have no one else on this list. I think Karen might have signed up. Was that for agenda? Yeah. Oh, go ahead, yeah.
All right. Hello, everyone.
Which item? Which item?
6A.
Okay, thank you.
So I think it's kind of unusual that 6A is even on the agenda. I would like an explanation of what a first reading is. This is on the first reading agenda. So am I correct in my understanding that this will not be definitively voted on today?
Sure.
This ordinance or change is still in committee at Traffic and Safety. They voted to table this issue because they didn't have enough information. What is being proposed is contrary to the traffic study of November 20th, 2020, which I believe the village spent somewhere in the neighborhood of $5,000 to conduct the traffic study. The traffic study recommended removal of 2 spots, not 16 and not 18. My understanding is that because 2 trustees asked for this to be put on the agenda, that's why it's on the agenda. But if it's still in the commission, why do we have commissions? Isn't it the purpose of the commission to vet these various matters, do the research, find out the information necessary, and then bring an educated proposal up to the board? It's still in the commission. So what's really going on here? There's always been parking on that side of the street. In the last 3 years, we've had 3 complaints, according to a FOIA that I just got this morning. Then in 10 days, between the end of February and the beginning of March, we've had 10 complaints, all from the same person, all from the same building. So what's really going on? There's a tenant at 306 South Central, and we all know who I'm speaking of. What we need here is a solution. We need a lasting solution to that problem. We don't need a knee-jerk reaction to try to get a bill passed in a lame duck session when we only have 2 more meetings left in this trustee session from a proposal that hasn't even worked its way up from the commission. What I propose is that we stop the fighting. The election is over. The people have overwhelmingly spoken. I ran on a campaign that we are better together, and I believe that we are better together. I have spoken with the chief, and Chief, I would like to ask you to set up a mediation between myself, my business, and 306 Central, so we can work out some issues. Maybe Rich, you can help with that. Let's set up a mediation and let's find solutions. Because these knee-jerk reactions, this, I'm going to get you, it's not productive for our village. We all need to come together, put the past beside, and work on solutions. Because we are truly better together. And that's what the people spoke about in this last election. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Well,
Karen,
Karen
you signed up
wants
too? Okay.
Karen Solom, Villa Park. What I'd like to speak on is 6A, the process from staff. So as I see it, the agenda item was brought by 2 trustees on, I believe, Friday, Thursday maybe. It's uploaded onto the system where everybody can see it. But I think for our governing body to be able to make a decision on this, you should be able to see that traffic study. That traffic study is missing from the last time that I checked, unless it's been uploaded. It's missing from the exhibits that should be attached, since it's cited by Kevin Mantles in Public Works in his memo. You should all have the opportunity to read it and assess your decision based on one of those many items that are submitted by staff. But without it, as the public, anyone here that would like to read about it or speak about the no parking on Central, no one would have any idea. In addition, Tuesday night, we sat in this room and heard Traffic and Safety's decision to table it. So I didn't think that it would even be before you, before everyone could kind of get educated on it. We happened to do a FOIA that came in this morning. You would not have enough time to do a FOIA, nor would any of the public in Villa Park have time to do a FOIA in order to make a decision to be able to speak on it tonight. So it's the process from staff that I'm requesting that if there's an important item that needs to be an exhibit that they've cited, that it is uploaded with the agenda items so that everyone can make an intelligent conversation about it, to have more transparency.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public? Please come on up, state your name, and state which item.
My name is Matthew D'Alessandro, 843 South Michigan Avenue. Talk about 6A, and based on the information that's just been presented, I'd like to make a motion to table this item until it can be properly vetted with the Traffic Safety Commission.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you need to sign in, please.
Yeah,
Yeah, I can sign.
Yeah, legibly.
Is there anyone else on an agenda item? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the amendments to the agenda. Does any board member have any amendment to the agenda? Trustee Kazone.
Mr. President, I would like to make a motion, or to remove 6A from our agenda tonight, and then send it back to Traffic and Safety for to get a final decision from them, especially based on the traffic study that was done there.
Okay, do we have a second? Trustee Ayala? Okay. We don't need discussion.
No, just a vote.
Okay, we'll have a roll call vote on that, sending that 6A back to Planning and Safety for further information.
Okay, trustee. Thank you. Trustee Patrick?
Yes.
Trustee Wagner?
Yes.
Trustee Tucker?
No.
Trustee Murphy?
No.
Trustee Kazone?
Yes.
Trustee Salela?
Yes.
President Polfus?
Yes. Okay, we'll send that back to Traffic and Safety for some more information on 6A. Okay. All right, then we'll move on to the consent agenda. Were there any other amendments to the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we have the consent agenda, which is minutes from the board meeting held on March 22nd, 2021, and the bill listing from the week of March 22nd, 2021, March 29th, 2021, April 5th, 2021, in the amount of $1,046,562.35. Do we have a motion for the consent agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Murphy was first, and Trustee Wagner second.
I'll second the motion.
Any questions? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Kazone?
Yes.
Trustee Patrick?
Yes.
Trustee Tucker?
Yes.
Trustee Salela?
Yes.
Trustee Wagner?
Yes.
Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
President Polfus?
Yes. Okay, with that, we'll move on to number 6B, because 6A was removed. And 6B is an ordinance of the Village of Villa Park amending water and wastewater rates and changes. Manager Keenan.
Thank you, Your Honor. Stanley Consultants was selected to perform a water and wastewater rate study for the village at the October 12th, 2020 board meeting. The focus of the study was to analyze the fees charged in both water and wastewater utilities to ensure that the village will have enough revenue to fund the daily operations and the planned capital improvements that are identified in the village's capital improvement plan. The rate study projected expenses for both water and wastewater utilities for the next 5 years, including the anticipated cost for low-interest loans for capital projects. Overall, the recommendation was to raise rates for water usage, water customer charge, sewer usage, wastewater customer charges, combination sewer charges, and the backflow prevention devices program fee. The proposed rates will increase the monthly cost for Villa Park residents. The proposal will increase the monthly cost for water by approximately 75 cents a month for an average family and 70 cents a month for wastewater charges. In reviewing neighboring communities, the proposed water rate will be slightly higher than the average rate for neighboring communities in 21 by 72 cents a month, but the wastewater rate is lower than the average rate by $3.83. It should be noted that the wastewater rate does not include Salt Creek Sanitary District treatment charges. These proposed rates and the village board may elect alternate rates. Any reduction in rates will have a direct impact on the completion of the capital plan, as there will not be sufficient funding for all planned future projects or repayment of low-interest loans. This will further delay improvements or projects will have to be removed from the capital plan at the board's direction. Thank you, Ron.
Okay. Okay, so this being a first reading, we don't need a motion, it's just for discussion. So, so if anybody has any questions or comments, now's the time. Trustee Tucker.
I have a question, because the way this chart's laid out, it looks like they're paying 3 different increases instead of, and we're talking to 70%, 75% a month. The chart that's on our layout looks like they're doing a water rate increase, then it goes down and says per customer, per account, per month, it's going to be this amount. Then it goes farther down and says sewer rates, the increase is going to be this from current. And then wastewater, the customer per account per month is going to be this amount. And then we're adding combined sewers and separation charges. So it's very confusing for a regular resident. I mean, if you look at the combined sewer separation charge, it alone looks like we increased it $3.
Okay, so what's your question?
My question is, what are they, I mean, we're telling them that we're just approximately raising it 75 cents a month average per house and 70 cents a month per wastewater charges, but it, you know, when it comes down to the bottom line, it looks like we're raising it actually almost $4.
A little bit, maybe Mike Guerrero can.
Mike Guerrero, you're up. I think he's looking it up on his laptop.
I just want to make sure I'm correct. So we charge several different rates for several different items to kind of explain to that. So I mean, the first portion, that first table, is the user rate charge for water. So you get billed per every 1,000 gallons of water used. That is the rate that gets charged. The second one would be the customer charge. So you also have, that's essentially what your meter charge is. So that is the charge that you pay for the meter that you have in your house. So that correlates to the size of your service line coming in. Those two kind of make up the 2 water charges that we charge in the community. There's a third charge, but that's not to everyone. That's more for commercial businesses. And that is what we conveniently call like our backflow preventer or RPZ charge. And that's pretty much a straight pass-through charge because we have to keep an inventory of all those devices in the community for the EPA. So when what we're saying is about 75 cents is the rate increases to the user charge based on an average user per household. And I apologize, I don't know the exact, but it's usually around 6,000 gallons, I believe, is what maybe an average user might use. That increase in rates upticks a little bit, and then the uptick in the customer service charge added together equates to that about 75 cents for the water usage. Now in the wastewater, we also have the 2 same scenarios. We have the usage rate, so whatever you use in your water also gets charged in your wastewater, because in theory, almost all the water that you use will go back down your drain, and it needs to be carried down to the treatment plant. So that user rate will get increased, and then also we have kind of the static customer charge, and that's a lot of times correlated to just having the sewers, having the billing, all the administrative costs with that. And then finally, the third charge would be the combination separation sewer charge, and that's kind of a little bit of a standalone charge because that's where we are using to help fund a lot of our separation projects. During our capital improvement plan, we have several projects listed out there. In the sense, that's where we get into, I think, approximately about $18 million, where a lot of it is the remaining sewers that we're trying to separate in the community. And to separate your sanitary from your stormwater to help reduce the backflows into homes and all those other unsightly and like things we don't want. So that charge gets increased, and that's more of a correlating to the number of projects that we have remaining and the amount of loans that we need to take out to help pay that debt service back to the EPA. When we go for low interest loans to IEPA, we have to have a ratio of revenue to debt, and it has to be above 1. And so that's kind of the correlation that we're trying to seek there, is to make sure that we have enough money to pay those debts so that we can continue to seek those loans. If we don't have a debt ratio to 1, they will start to deny those loans, saying that you need to raise rates to make sure that you can pay back those loans that you took from the IEPA. Right? Does that kind of explain? So the average is always that. It's just an average to the customers, and we're trying to correlate average usage. So the average usage of water and the average usage of wastewater, and what that would kind of correlate to their increase in bills on a monthly basis. But I think in terms of, so for the wastewater, I think the combination sewer, it does increase over time. But I think right now it's at like I want to say maybe $2, so it'll be about a $1 increase. The $6 is for commercial, because that's how the system's set up. It's double. And it should be pointed out that any users that are not in the village corporate limits pay double the rate for water and wastewater. So that's kind of another table in there that says if they're not village rates, that's just they pay double of what any village residents pay.
Okay, trustee?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions? Trustee Kazal.
If we pass these increases, when do you think all of these projects will be completed?
So our goal would be to stay on track as much as possible. Obviously, when we seek IEPA loans, there are some time frames with that. So currently, this would just stay on track with our 5-year plan.
Okay.
And obviously, we're gearing up to do all that with submissions to the IEPA. There's a few extra projects in there that are not loan dependent, so those projects will stay on time. Like for the water side, that include we still need to paint the Plymouth water tower. We still have some other minor repairs that happen all the time with water leaks. Those are the things that kind of take precedent. Sure. But
and then if we've got that 0.5% sales tax that was added a couple of years ago. If we see a big sales tax increase, can these rates be looked at again? Like if we get a large increase, that maybe we can do away with 1 year of this increase?
Yes, I think the rates could always be reviewed. I think the finance director, Schaber, and myself will obviously be reviewing these yearly to keep track of our reserves. And obviously that's a scenario too.
Okay. Okay. Good. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Trustee Wagner.
Thank you. I just, the thing that impressed me in the memo, and of course the rate study, we haven't raised rates since 2017. These increases are, as you mentioned, kind of essential for the funding of important projects, that some of which have been delayed. So no one likes to increase rates, but I think that the rate study provides a good justification for these. So yeah, I'd be supporting this.
Okay. Thank you.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move that on to our next meeting in April for a second reading. Okay. Number 6C is an ordinance of the Village of Villa Park, DuPage County, Illinois, amending the village code regarding persons eligible to hold a liquor license. Manager Keener.
Thank you, Your Honor. The village board is considering modifying section 3-309 of chapter 3, article 3 of the Villa Park Municipal Code so that the village code is similar to the requirements of the Illinois Liquor Control Act of 1934. This ordinance will allow certain elected officials under certain conditions to hold a liquor license. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. So again, this is a first reading, so we don't need a motion, so it's just for discussion only. So anyone have any comments or questions? Seeing none? Oh, Trustee Wagner.
I do have a question. It's kind of not directly to this item per se, but so the issue of recusing oneself, if there's a conflict, is there any kind of mechanism or penalty if you don't recuse yourself?
Well, you'd be in violation of the code.
Right.
The
in the event our code prohibits a vote on a particular area, the person can vote all they want. It will not be counted as a vote in the record. Period. End of story. No point in fighting. No point in arguing. The law is the law. And we have a really competent village clerk. So I have no fear if that is provided for.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Okay. Trustee Murphy?
Yes. I've read all of this. We all have significantly over the last couple of weeks. I would prefer, as opposed to extracting paragraphs out of the state statute, I would prefer that we write it very similar to the way Naperville did, and it basically says that the trustee has to adhere to anything within the state statute. And that pretty much covers those 4 categories that we've extracted and included in ours. The areas around us, there are probably at least 4 who have opted to leave their ordinance that a trustee cannot hold a liquor license. So there's 4 towns around us that are doing that. There is at least 1, if not 2, that have modified theirs to integrate those 4 criteria that the trustee would have to meet. And then Naperville has written theirs basically just to say they need to adhere to anything that's in the state statute. So if the state statute changes, then our local municipal ordinance would continue to conform to that.
Because of the notwithstanding clause.
Well, I think what we have written here in front of us pretty much is what the state statute says, isn't it?
No, because of the notwithstanding part, that last phrase.
Okay, let me see. Furthermore, okay, it says here, the state statute says, notwithstanding any provision of this paragraph, which is paragraph 14, to the contrary, a alderman or member of the city council or commission, a member of the village board of trustees other than the president of the village board of trustees, or a member of a county board other than the president of the county board may have a direct interest in the manufacture, sale, or distribution of alcoholic liquor, as long as he or she is not a law enforcement public official, like a mayor or the village president or the president of the county board. To prevent any conflict of interest, the elected official with the direct interest of the manufacturer of the sales or distribution of alcoholic liquor shall not participate in any meeting, hearing, or discussion on matters impacting the manufacturing, sale, or distribution of alcoholic liquors. So, go ahead.
Yes, one other resident input, they'd like to see a definition around incidental. There is one village that's calling incidental 15%. Who determines what incidental is? There are people requesting that a number be tied to that.
Yeah, incidental. So, if you want to have a percentage, I'm all ears.
Trustee Tucker?
Okay. We require, when we did the liquor licenses for the gas stations and stuff, we required 20%. I'm not quite sure what incidental means for sales. Does that mean that the food must be more than the liquor, or the liquor more than the food? When you're talking percentage, it's hard to tell in that. Which way is it?
I would say incidental in this case would be the majority would have to be food. That's the way I interpret it.
Correct.
Okay. So.
Okay, because generally when we were doing percentages for when we were talking about liquor licenses for businesses or like the gas stations, we had a percentage of, you know, area space and 20% of what it was that they were allowed to have when it came to liquor. So I don't see why there shouldn't be a percentage for this too on, you know.
Percentage based on what? Percentage
based on, well, if the food's supposed to be more than the liquor, then.
Well, you can't do it on price because the liquor is twice as expensive of the food. So I could be selling majority of food and still my liquor bill
would be higher. I understand that. I'm not talking about percentage that way on receipts or sales or whatever it is. But I think there should be some percentage to make sure that the sales of food is more than the liquor at the location.
Well, again, how do you do that? If you got any suggestions, so we'll make a note of them.
Because I think it should be figured out percentage-wise how to do that. I mean, obviously, if we're going to put this ordinance in effect, we have to have some type of way to verify that it's being done that way. You know, and the other thing I wanted to kind of tweak on this that we have a chance to do is that the last statement that if we're putting this into effect, a village trustee granted a license does not vote on any alcoholic liquor issues. That means our brew fests, anything that has to do with a special event that comes to the board also should come into that effect too.
Just the portion with regard
Yeah, just the portion that has to do with the sale of the alcohol.
Well, it would be wavering if the sale of the alcohol, if the establishment that our trustee was part of that would be, you know, like Summerfest, if all of a sudden one of our owners decided that they were going to have a booth which included, you know, food and liquor at their booth, that would be kind of a conflict of interest, wouldn't it?
Could be.
So I think that should be something that is stated in this too, to broaden this a little on the guidelines of, I mean, if we're opening it up for a trustee with a liquor license, we need to take all the other businesses into town too, in effect that in the future they may also want to be trustees and that it may encompass other businesses. That we should probably put in effect just not only liquor license, but any trustee that might be part of an LLC or a corporation should also be in effect of this.
Are we making this harder than it has to be?
Yes.
So.
Because those could come in effect too while they're elected.
Well, I just said, are we making this harder than we have to? So, so far as the LLC, you know, I think if they're the, my interpretation would be, if they're the owner of the principal of the LLC, then that would apply to them, that they would have to abide by the ordinance.
There are a lot of LLCs, people that are involved in LLC and corporations that are not the owners. They're on a board or they're part of the association, but they are not the owner of the liquor license. And those would come in effect too if they became trustees up on this board.
So you're saying anybody who had any involvement or worked for the LLC, they could not have a liquor license? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not. You're opening this up for somebody that has a liquor license, somebody that also is part of an LLC or a corporation of a company that owns a liquor license would also be in conflict of interest as being a trustee. And they should be included in this, not just the person with a liquor license. I mean, you bring a trustee up here that has some, you know, possibly is associated in a corporation that has a liquor license or a restaurant involved, they're also in conflict of interest for their business.
I would think that the people who are listed as the principals in the LLC is who this would apply to.
The general rule in the code, as we pointed out, is any owner of 5% or more of a business would have to comply with all the terms of the liquor code. So the assumption would be, if you're associated with the business, no. But if you own 5% or more as a shareholder or a percentage owner of a limited liability company, that's the percentage set by the liquor code. So it would cover anyone who is a trustee who owns 5% or more in a corporation or LLC.
As you stated, the assumption is, but if we're going to make this as clear as possible so our ordinances aren't muddy, which is what's been going on lately, we probably should clarify it a little more than just making an assumption of it.
Yeah. How could you have it more than that? Suggestions? You got questions? I don't know what you want me to write down.
My suggestion would be that the bottom line would include any spouses, any part of an LLC, or any part of a corporation would fall on the same ruling.
No. The spouse, if the spouse doesn't have anything to do with it, I don't know why you would include that.
Because a spouse would be influenced by the business itself.
The liquor code says any direct interest. Now, in our state codes, with regard to conflict of interest in terms of contracting with a municipality, the words direct or indirect, meaning taking into spouses, etc. The liquor code only uses the term direct, which means the trustee, that person, has a liquor license or owns 5% or more of a corporation or an LLC.
Correct. And as I asked previously, that we could make ours more stricter than the state if we so chose.
No.
That, you know.
Good. Yeah.
Well,
Because we're making a decision here on something in the future that may come up again, that the state is very general.
Oh, yeah. I read it 10 times and it's all confusing.
You know? If we're removing, we're removing it to open it up to a trustee to be able to own a liquor license. I think we should, as a village, look into this more in depth than just what the state code says, because the state code, as you said, you read it over how many times, that we should make it a little more clarified for this village.
Again.
Of what we want.
It currently is.
Yeah, it is more restrictive than the state code as we have it written. But again, you know, can you answer your own question? What do you want us to put in?
Well, the other question is, somebody brought up, what happens if the trustee violates any of our local ordinances? How are we going to handle that? Is there a time frame that they have to get in code with it? You know, how does that come up in effect either?
If they violate the ordinance?
Right. If for some reason their business, you know, goes in violation of a local ordinance, while they're a trustee, how's that going to be handled?
There are two ways that you handle a liquor license. One is revocation. You have to have a hearing before the liquor commission, or number two, you refuse to renew. There's a two-time ability to address any license holder, trustee or not, any license holder of liquor that violates any aspect of our village law.
But what does this have to do with if it's not the liquor license that we're having the violation against? It's the trustees on a board for, a violation.
The law says it violates any ordinance of the village. So if you violate an ordinance of the village, the Liquor Commission would have two recourse. Do not renew or have a hearing and revocate. Revoke.
Okay. But okay, so as it stands, it wouldn't mean anything to remove the trustee from the board for doing it.
No.
Okay.
We have no right of impeachment or removal. We have no such right.
We have no such right
in
to
the
do
state
that.
of Illinois.
Okay. It would just be the violation of the code for the liquor license that they would
Right,
have
and
to
if you
check.
revoke the license or did not renew the license, then they're in compliance.
Okay.
Mr. President?
Yes, Trustee Ciala.
Just a quick question. In the past, we've had board members that had interest in other types of businesses that could have came into conflict with, say, real estate, where that may or may not gone well if he had an interest in a decision making, and we dealt with that. What guidelines did we use for that? It worked out well, whatever they were. I know he abstained himself on certain sales and conversation and whatnot, but we put that together very simplistic. I can't see why this can't be somewhat along those lines.
Yeah, they would, in the past, they had just said that they had a conflict and they didn't vote. In this situation here, maybe the president of the board or some other trustee or the attorney can tell them, you know, there's a conflict here, you shouldn't vote on this. And like she said, if they do and go ahead and then vote, you just don't count it.
Right.
Trustee Patrick.
I've got two questions. First of all, for the village attorney, can you clarify again, if a said trustee owns a business and is not in compliance with the code, what are the two courses of action?
You would, depending on what time of year it is, you would either not renew their license, so they'd not be able to sell liquor, or you could call them before a hearing in order to determine whether or not the license should be revoked. And we have a liquor commission on our code, that would have the right to have a hearing and make a determination if it should be revoked.
Then may I ask if you could clarify for the public, what does the liquor commission consist of?
The liquor commission consists of the mayor and two people appointed by the mayor, so that it would be majority of the three to be able to make a decision.
Has the village president appointed two people to be on that liquor commission?
No, but because it's my discretion to appoint them if I want to or not.
So if a trustee is not in compliance with the code, the course of action then is to go to a panel is which the liquor commission consists of the village president and whoever he appoints?
Yes.
And the other option?
Is simply not to renew it because it comes up for renewal every year.
And then who decides to renew it or not?
The renewal would be based on violation of our code, violation of the ordinance, and the liquor commissioner should not renew.
So again, the liquor commission consists of the village president as well as...
No, the liquor commissioner is the village president that issues the license.
Thank you.
Trustee Murphy.
Yes, I have a question for Attorney Orr, please. Should there be a constraint added regarding adding food sales from different LLCs together in order to meet the incidental requirements?
Well, that would be kind of hard to do because you could say any supplies or if he made tacos and he was buying taco meat from somewhere, you know, so how do you do that?
I mean, it's got to be a common sense approach.
Yeah.
Incidental to food is to think of a restaurant where you go more for the food, not that you don't have cocktails, had wine with your dinner and maybe an after dinner drink, so that your bill is far more for the liquor. But the point of the story is it is the base of the business is food, and liquor is incidental to that food, even though it may be a bigger part of your bill at the end of the evening.
And the business would be defined as the LLC holding the liquor license?
or the person holding the liquor license. Rarely does a person hold a liquor license simply for insurance purposes and dram shop insurance. So that I can't remember the last time a liquor license was in the name of an individual. Scary, because of the number of issues that you run into offering liquor for sale.
So with your definition then, somebody that owned a bar or that wasn't a restaurant would most likely be nailed from this because they couldn't fall into that food ordinance, correct?
Well,
I can think of...
If you had a place like, let's take a place like Highview. He sells food, but he also sells liquor, okay? But his primary business sales are food.
Correct. We look at Highview as a restaurant.
So then let's go across the parking lot to Caps.
Okay.
His primary business is liquor. But they also have food. So there's your distinction. Is that what you're looking for? And then they would not be able to be on the board because their primary business was alcohol.
Okay. And how would we make that discretion?
Common sense.
Common sense.
Just
yeah.
common sense. There's no way
Common
to verify one way or another. It's just common sense on what the business is that they determine that.
Okay, I think you're looking for a percentage. You're looking for a percentage of food, right? Compared to the percentage of alcohol.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a pretty gray area.
Okay.
So let's leave that up to the liquor commissioner to decide, because when it comes before him, a complaint comes before him, the liquor commissioner and the liquor commission can make that decision.
But that means the president's making a decision for the whole village on determining whether a trustee is eligible or not.
You make the decision.
In that case, unless you tell us that you want to put a percentage in here, then tell us what the percentage is, because I'm happy with the way it is. Trustee Patrick.
This is a first reading, correct?
Yes, just for discussion. But if you want any changes, now's the time to make it, because the next time is the final reading. So now's the time to work out the kinks. Trustee Sala.
I think personally, from what I've heard, keeping it simple, using common sense to determine if a business's primary sales is food or alcohol, alcohol being incidental to the consumption of food, should be made based entirely on a case-by-case, and not encompass all the businesses that may fall into this trick bag of percentage of liquor versus food. So I think, my opinion would be the village president, liquor commissioner, making that call, a judgment call, based on those points, and then of course board approval, to keep it simplistic yet comply with the law. And a liquor license holder who violates falls under the same repercussions as anybody else. There's no special compensation because you're on the board. You violate, you violate. Black and white, simple.
Trustee Wagner, we haven't heard from you.
Yes, it's just a point of information. I understand your point that we should make amendments now, but there's nothing that prohibits an amendment on a second reading.
No, that's true.
Yeah. I just want to make that point.
Okay. But it makes it a whole lot easier if we do them now.
I understand.
So, okay. Trustee Patrick, did you have something?
No, thank you.
Okay. Trustee Murphy.
Yes, just one comment, and I understand we're working very hard to come up with general terminology, not based on our current circumstance, but just what we think is appropriate on a going forward basis. However, keeping that in mind, I think everyone here is aware that we are in a circumstance where we're going to have to evaluate what's going to happen in the next 30 days. And as part of that, we're going to be up against the question that I posed earlier about two different LLCs, adding the food sales to the alcohol, because the location that has the liquor license is primarily, if not solely, alcohol, and the food is under a different LLC.
I don't think that's a problem. It's the LLC that holds the liquor license has to be the seller of the food so that the liquor is incidental to the food. Having a second LLC has nothing to do with the liquor license holder in one vote. So
I agree.
Right. I agree too. And I can't imagine the common sense approach being other.
Perfect. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, well, seeing none, we'll move this on to a second reading at our next meeting. And we'll probably do it all again. All right, where are we at?
6D.
6D. All right, then we'll go on to 6D is an ordinance of the Village of Villa Park, DuPage County, Illinois, prohibiting the use of groundwater as potable water supply by the installation or use of a potable water supply wells or any other method. Manager Keener.
Thank you, Andrew. The village received a request from Tricor Environmental LLC.
Oh, wait. Yo, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Let's start over.
It's okay.
She was talking in my other ear, so.
Thank you. Okay. The village received a request from Tricor Environmental LLC of Naperville, Illinois, to consider approving a groundwater ordinance. Tricor has been working to fulfill the obligations of the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency's leaking underground storage tank program to obtain a no further remediation letter for the leaking underground storage tank incident numbers 92-2987 and 94-2519 related to property located on the east side of Route 83. This ordinance prohibits the use of groundwater as a supply of potable water through the installation or use of private potable water supply wells. Staff recommends approval of this ordinance. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. Again, this is just a first reading.
No.
Is it?
This ordinance is not to be codified. This is a singular ordinance so that the vote tonight will be a final vote.
Oh, okay, so then we need a motion. Okay. It was in a different section on
Yes,
my
sir.
agenda. So, do we have a motion for the ordinance? Trustee Wagner?
I'd like to make that motion.
Okay, do we have a second? Trustee Kazone?
I'll second that.
Any questions or comments? Trustee Tucker?
This ordinance is just for that location only, right?
Yes.
It's not, it has nothing to do with any other locations in Villa Park. It's just an ordinance for that location. Am I understanding that
Just this
correctly?
location.
This location
Yes.
only.
Anyone else? Trustee Kazone?
Mr. President, do we have anybody from Tricor here tonight?
No. No.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote on that.
Okay, Trustee Silella?
Yes.
Trustee Tucker?
Yes.
Trustee Patrick?
Yes.
Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee Kazone?
Yes.
Trustee Wagner?
Yes.
President Volz?
Yes, that passes. And I think the next one is
Yes, that is part of the code. Thank you.
okay, then that passes. We'll move on to 6E, which is an ordinance of the Village of Villa Park, DuPage County, Illinois, amending the Villa Park Municipal Code relating to the immobilization of motor vehicles and fines for immobilization. Manager Keener.
Thank you, Your Honor. Police Department has identified approximately 26 vehicle owners with multiple unpaid parking tickets. Attempts to collect unpaid parking fines through notices, adjudication, and collections have been ignored. The top 5 offenders owe the village a cumulative total of $59,062.50. Staff consulted with the village's attorney and adjudication hearing officer to provide guidance that would be used to create a more understandable and enforceable vehicle immobilization code. Attached is a copy of the village's existing code containing highlighted text illustrating the proposed revisions. Staff recommends approval of this ordinance. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, now this is a code change, so we don't need a motion. This is just for discussion, so. I know it's kind of interesting. You got 5 people that'll total of $59,000. Was it one with 27,000?
Something like that, Your Honor.
I guess we need a little muscle in that code, so, okay. Trustee Ciala.
When we talk in mobilization, are we talking strictly like a boot process where the vehicles are locked down until
It
payment?
escalates. It starts with the tickets, and they have to come to adjudication, and if that doesn't provide anything, of course, the fines keep going up, and then we can boot, and then if they have so many days after the boot to make restitution. If not, then we tow.
Well,
and then there's extra charges on the towing and everything.
So it's my understanding that several of these vehicles are well beyond that point.
Yeah.
And are we looking at going to that next step, possibly removing the vehicles? Is that my understanding?
No, we have to give them notice.
Yeah, we have to give them notice.
They will have opportunities to cure.
Right.
And to come in and work something out, because each step requires a notice to the vehicle owner.
And that's all in the code, what the steps are, and the
Right.
time between them and stuff, so. You're right, though, if I owe 27,000, you probably tow the car, but it's all yours, right? Yeah, I know what you're saying. So.
Right.
Okay, anyone else? Trustee Tucker.
Yes, I understand there's steps in this, and I realize that we have to go through that, but who's gonna pay for all this extra postage? I mean, that seems to be an extra cost on us sending out this notices. And by the time they're done, we're talking 78 days. If you go through all the steps, you know, haven't all these people that have tickets already been in adjudication? I mean, obviously, we've been trying to collect the tickets for a while. Have they not had a court date
Oh,
on
they
these
have court
tickets?
dates. They just didn't show up.
Okay.
So then more fines are added on.
Okay, so haven't we already moved them up, the 5 we're speaking of, up the ladder, or do we have to start at day
No, I
one?
think they've already up the ladder.
We've already gone up the ladder most of these ways, right?
That's a good question. Manager Keener.
Thank you, Your Honor. So, as we've mentioned within the description of the item, there's a number of vehicle owners who have a number of unpaid parking tickets. These folks have already been notified via notice, and what's more than likely going to happen is now that we've provided a notice and they've not responded, to contact Chief Rivas or the adjudication hearing officer. More than likely what'll transpire, and correct me, Chief, if I'm incorrect, is when we locate a certain vehicle that's on our list, we'll apply the boot. And when that individual comes out in the morning to go to work and he's unable to, or she's unable to, I'm sure that they'll be reaching out quickly and working out an agreement to pay those parking fines.
That'd be my guess. Do you have anything to add, Chief?
Yes, there's
No, just that this gives the ordinance a little bit more teeth. There's currently no teeth behind what we're doing. And I understand what you're saying, but at some point, we have to apply the boot, and there's due process every step of the way, and there's transparency every step of the way. So I understand your concern about length of time, but this will speed up that process.
It just seems like we've had a long enough process already on this, and then you're sending a certified letter out to them if, you know, by chance that whatever we're booting or whatever, I notice in your ordinance, they state it's not their vehicle. Where do we have vocal in that deal?
Can you rephrase the question? I'm sorry.
Some of the statements you were saying that the resident can say that the vehicle doesn't belong to them, or that it has indication that maybe it's somebody else's vehicle that just happens to be in our village.
We could
But it's
prove
not-
that. We could prove that through a title search and see what the dates, if the dates match up to when those notices or those citations have been issued.
Okay. I'm just kind of curious if it ends up being a vehicle that actually has been ticketed in our village for, you know, get on the list, and it happens to be a Hanover Park vehicle. Do we have still the same, you know, authority to do that to them? That's
No,
my
we
question.
could seek some reciprocity with those communities, but that still would be a lengthy process as well.
Okay, so can we follow, would we be following the same ordinance for an outside village as we would for somebody from Villa Park?
No, this is only going to apply to village residents.
Okay, so So we still have an issue if the vehicle isn't actually registered in Villa Park and just keeps getting our tickets.
And never can be parked in Villa Park.
Right.
Yeah. So, okay. All right. Can we notify the state to garnish their tax refunds?
Not anymore.
Well, it's on freeze right now.
Yes, and there are bills pending to eliminate that. In the olden days, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, not only were you allowed to get their, for any village fine, their tax refund, which has been put in advance, but more importantly, when you had fines for parking, you could file a lien against the driver's license, and the driver could not renew their license. And that's been done away with.
Correct.
Makes it hard, so.
More impounding.
Yeah. Okay.
One more question I have.
One more.
Because you're talking that these people have huge fines already, and then we're adding the impoundment of $100 and $500 in towing. What are the odds that we're even going to get them to pay these? That we're going to end up most of these vehicles at this point.
I think you answered your question.
I'm sorry, sir.
You answered your question. What's the odds? You don't know.
You don't know if they'll actually pay the huge fine or not, or we're going to. And if we do end up with these vehicles, is that going to be considered part of our auction type sales? How are we going to redo these vehicles?
I guess we can sell them, right?
It depends on the arrangement with the towing company. Usually the towing company has a storage fee, and the towing company ultimately sells it to recoup their storage fee.
So in the long run, we may not even benefit from the money.
Our goal is to get the car off the street.
The goal is basically to get the car off the street.
Right.
Prospectively.
Okay, because
future.
Right.
So it's not a money-making deal of trying to get these tickets paid, because it doesn't look like it's going to end up being that way anyway.
Most of what we do is not a moneymaker.
Yeah. Ultimately, we're not saving anything here. We're just removing the car off the street is what we're doing.
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay, that'll move on to our next board meeting for a final reading. Okay, we'll move on to 7A, which is an ordinance of the Village of Villa Park, DuPage County, Illinois, establishing temporary executive powers pursuant to Chapter 8, Article 3, Section 8-301 to 308 of the Villa Park Municipal Code, 65 ILCS 5/11-1-6 of the Illinois Municipal Code, and 20 ILCS 3305-11 of the Illinois Emergency Management Act. And this ordinance extends the temporary executive powers contained in ordinance number 4212, approved by the village board on March 22nd, until such time that the village board can reconvene in an open meeting. Do we have a motion for the ordinance? Trustee Kazone?
President, I'll make that motion.
Second, Trustee Ciala?
I'll second.
Okay. You know, I had every intention to remove this executive power, but we can get into it later in my comments. The unfortunate part, this has a lot to do with COVID-19, and the numbers are continuing to go up. And it looks like if it doesn't turn down pretty soon, we may be getting into some, back into some lockdowns. So I'll cover that when I get into my my president's report on the current situation from the county health department. So unfortunately, we have to. I'm asking that we just leave that on there for now. So okay, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Patrick?
Yes.
Trustee Tucker?
Yes.
Trustee Salella?
Yes.
Trustee Murphy? Yes. Trustee Wagner?
Yes.
Trustee Kazone?
Yes.
President Bolfus?
Yes. It passes, and we'll move on to 7B, which is an ordinance of the Village of Villa Park, DuPage County, Illinois, approving Herbert's plot of consolidation for the property commonly known as 307 South Illinois Avenue. Andrew Keener.
Thank you, Your Honor. The owners of 307 South Illinois own the two parcels of land that are in consideration for consolidation. Said owners seek to add a swimming pool on the northern parcel, which is currently green space. A plat of consolidation is necessary to record the property as one lot consisting of the principal structure and accessory structures. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. Do I have a motion for the ordinance? Trustee Wagner?
I'd like to make that motion.
You have a second? Trustee Patrick?
I'd like to make that second.
Any questions or comments? Trustee Murphy?
Yes, do we have a staff recommendation on this?
I don't think, oh, Consuelo, do you have one? You have the request, I know, so.
Good evening. Yes, staff's recommendation is to recommend approval for this.
Thank you.
Trustee Tucker?
By making it one parcel, do we lose property tax?
No.
Property is still the same, correct? Whether it's one parcel or two, so we don't lose property tax on this by
Yeah, the
combining?
value stays the same.
Okay. And the other thing is that we're losing green space on that. For them to put a pool in there, will the grading and all the ordinance for the green space be taken into consideration when they put the pool in? That they need to follow those?
Yeah, they would still be subject to compliance with our current code, which would be lot coverage, setback requirements. So that would still be into play. It's just
Okay,
allowing the property owner to have a lot, one lot versus two parcels, and allow the pool to be part of the property.
So they have to go still through all the ordinances of setting up a pool or whatever it is, and the same thing with the need for a fence if a pool gets put on that property, because right now it's bushes and fencing on one side. They'd be required to have a full fencing if they put a pool in, correct?
That's correct.
They have to follow the same codes whether we make it one parcel or two? Whether we change it to one parcel, they still have to keep
Correct.
in code violations for the spacing and everything else as if it was one property.
That's correct.
Okay.
Anyone else? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Trustee Salella?
Yes.
Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee Kazone?
Yes.
Trustee Tucker?
Yes.
Trustee Wagner?
Yes.
Trustee Patrick?
Yes.
President Boltis?
Yes, that passes, and we'll move to 7C, which is an ordinance of the Village of Villa Park, DuPage County, Illinois, approving a plat of consolidation and granting a special use to allow a church, including daycare in the lower level, and a special use to allow for a planned unit development consisting of two buildings, a church, and a parsonage. Manager Keenan.
Thank you, Your Honor. St. Paul Lutheran Church, located at 545 South Ardmore Avenue, is seeking improvements to the church and parking lot. The proposed improvements include reconfiguring the basement daycare to serve the modern daycare program better. The drive on the east side of the church will be moved further east away from the building to eliminate a blind corner. It will also allow space to move the playground against the building, eliminating the need for daycare students to cross the drive to access the playground. Most work to the building will be interior renovations within the existing footprint. The property is currently made up of 5 separate parcels and will be consolidated into one lot so that the improvements do not straddle onto separate parcels. Staff recommends approval of these ordinances. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. Do you have a motion for the ordinance? Trustee Patrick?
I'd like to make that motion.
You have a second? Trustee Wagner?
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Questions or comments? Sure. Trustee Tucker?
I have a question. The garbage facility and the garage that's on that property, where is it going to move to? That was why I wanted you to enlarge the picture, because I could not tell. Where are they relocating that? I realize they're spreading out the parking and they're taking out.
Sure, so the dumpster enclosure is going to be along the east building elevation.
So they're moving it against the east building?
Yes, it would be closest to that southeast corner of the building.
Okay. So they're moving it on the other side of the building. From the look of these pictures, the building's going to be extended farther out, correct?
Yes.
It's moving farther out from the building, so they're adding on to the building on the east side?
That's
if I'm
right.
understanding correctly, and then they're going to put the garbage facility over there, and then the driveway is going to move farther east, so it doesn't have such a sharp turn around it.
Just slightly.
Mhm.
I would like to refer you over to the landscape plan. It's one of two. It's this exhibit.
Okay, yeah.
It should be the third page in your packet. Oh, you just passed it up.
Go ahead.
Okay. So this clearly shows the building addition along the east, which includes also the future fenced playground area, and then the dumpster enclosure is just immediately south of the handicap parking space.
So it's gonna be indented in that spot on the southeast side, basically. Okay. And then the parking is going to be extended. My understanding is they're adding more parking on the east side of where they have right now. And they're using where the playground setting is to add more parking.
Correct.
Correct? Okay.
Anything else, trustee?
No.
Okay. Anyone else? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Trustee Solella?
Yes.
Trustee Kazone?
Yes.
Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee Patrick?
Yes.
Trustee Wagner?
Yes.
Trustee Tucker?
Yes.
President Bolkus?
Yes. With that passes, and we'll move on to 8A, which is a resolution of the Village of Villa Park, DuPage County, Illinois, approving final change order number 1 to the contract from Valdivia Contractors of Chicago, Illinois, for construction of the 2020 Home Avenue water tank painting project for deduction is $6,720. Manager Keener.
Thank you, Your Honor. The village has a contract with Era Valdivia Contractors, Inc. of Chicago, Illinois, in the amount of $782,520 for the construction of the 2020 Home Avenue water tank painting project. Proposed final change order number 1 consists of the final balancing of contract quantities as measured in the field. The net amount of proposed final change order number 1 is a deduction in the amount of $6,720 for an adjusted final contract amount of $775,800. Staff recommends approval of this resolution. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Do you have a motion for the resolution? Trustee Kazone?
President, I'll make that motion.
Trustee Wagner?
I'll second the motion.
Any questions or comments? Trustee Tucker?
I have a question. How expensive were those bolts?
Oh.
For $6,000 and some dollar, what additions were we not needed for it, and how expensive was that one bolt?
That was, within the scopes, we had identified, I believe, 4 bolts based on corrosion of those bolts that need to be replaced. So it's just not a bolt. They had to drill back into the concrete to re-anchor those bolts because they're structural attachments. When they blasted the water tower, we found that a couple of bolts were still and had sufficient structural strength, so we didn't replace them. But I would have to look at the bid tabs, but there are a few $1,000s per bolt per location.
Okay, that's what I wondered. When
It
you're
was
talking
a
a
complete package
different
to
for,
replace the bolts, not just one bolt, yeah.
yeah, $6,720. It's like we didn't use one bolt, and then I don't know what the additional thing they thought they might need to do was removed, but it's like, whoa.
Anything else, trustee?
No,
Okay.
it's just,
Okay. Any other comments? Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee Patrick?
Yes.
Trustee Solella?
Yes.
Trustee Wagner?
Yes.
Trustee Kazone?
Yes.
Trustee Tucker?
yes.
President Bolkus?
Okay, that passes, and we'll move on to public comments on non-agenda items. Clerk Konecki, anyone signed up?
Yes, Robert Smith wants to talk about Charles Avenue.
Good evening. Robert Smith, 137 North Charles Avenue. You know, now that with the election behind us and stuff, I understand some trustees are going off the board. I just wanted to say thank you for your service. For those that remain, you know, continue the good work. And for those coming on, I wish you luck. Last fall, I've been here about half a dozen times talking about the reconstruction of North Charles Avenue. At the end of our discussions at the end of the year in December, we were notified through the budget process that we were number 4 on the capital improvement list. which was good news. So we tracked minutes, agendas, and saw that some action was being taken, some loans, to my understanding. We saw NICOR out on the street in March running new gas lines, but we're still a little in the dark what's going on. We're asking that the board direct staff to communicate with the residents of Charles on the status of the project. I don't think that's unreasonable. Maybe a monthly notice would be good. That's really, I think communication could be better because my neighbors are coming knocking on my door asking us what the status is. I don't want to be the spokesman, especially when we have the people with the information, the correct information to communicate. So I'm asking the board to do that. My wife might speak, but just one thought after listening to some of the conversations on this liquor license thing and what's incidental to sales or whatever. I think it should be that the applicant, the onus is put on them to demonstrate with some sort of data when they apply for the license that the commission can consider, come to either a full consensus or a majority that it is incidental or not. So I think instead of trying to figure it out here, put it as part of the process. So just a thought.
Okay, thank you.
I had Kelly Smith. Did you want to speak? Okay.
Half a mile.
We saw, yeah, we walked. It's good. Kelly Smith, 137 North Charles. Again, I have been attending meetings with my husband about our street and kind of being the voice of our street. And we see part of actually an agenda item. We were kind of up in the air, but that part of the waste management water fees are going towards, and we see that Charles Avenue is getting funding from that. So again, we see things moving. I was giddy when we went for our walk and they were digging up the parkways, but we had no idea why they were doing it and asking. So it really does come back to that transparency and just communication. The last time we heard from the village about our street was April 19th last year. So a lot has gone on. That was the only letter we received. And then that's why we came in the fall. We still didn't know what was going on. And we're here again. And I know there's a number of projects. So I might even speak for other residents of other streets with the same thing, that your street's going to be, something's going to happen. When is it going to happen? According to the website, we're in bid is to be determined and everything. So nothing is moving forward as far as, they're not going to start digging our road up next week, as what I can tell. But just communicating that, because it's going to be an impact. We're really excited. We fought for it, and then we're going to dread it. We're like, oh my God, we can't park, or what have we done to ourselves? But just so we can prepare, we have some residents that have some mobility issues, what will happen with them, what parking is, and we just hope that that communication will come to us so we can prepare and we can help our residents. And I know there's a number of projects that we're working on, so I would just that happens for everybody for just their convenience and knowledge. So thank you very much. Congratulations. Thank you for your service. La la la.
Yeah. We're working on the communications, and so.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, anyone else?
No.
Anyone else? Okay.
Yeah, real quick. Dan here, 29 South Charles Avenue. Lived in the village for a long time. Al, I just wanted to say thank you. I may not be here again before you leave, but you've served a long time. Appreciate all your help. And all of you guys on these boards. I know it takes a lot of time and effort, so thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you. So, okay. With that, we'll move on to the clerk's report.
I have no report today. Thank you.
Okay. Trustees report. Trustee Patrick?
Thank you. Mr. D'Alessandro, did you have something to add? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Matthew D'Alessandro, 843 South Michigan Avenue. I just want to say thank you to all the voters that came out last Tuesday, and congratulations to fellow candidates that are in the room tonight. And thank you to the board for your service. And then I'm just going to kind of echo what the Smiths were saying over here about communication and the 800 block of South Michigan Avenue. We still haven't had, we need some more communication on what's going on with attaching the pipe to the Jackson Pond expansion project. We have our pipe reservoir that is currently not attached to Jackson Pond Extension Project, which is now going on this spring, 3 years. And we had flooding issues last May, as a lot of people did, and I just want to make sure that you know, a project and things are going along with that to make sure that we can utilize that system effectively. Again, thank you very much.
Good rip on District 45 if you want.
Do you want me to talk about it or anything?
Well, as long as I can rip on 45. Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. Thank you, Your Honor. So President Bolthice and I were just talking back and forth about the Jackson Pond. So we've, to do the Jackson Pond Improvement Project, we have a grant into FEMA right now, and I think the project's a little over $3 million, plus or minus. Correct me if I'm wrong, Director Guerrero. So the grant has been into FEMA, I mean, honestly, probably 18 months now. And we just received an email probably 3 weeks ago asking for additional information. It's taking quite some time to review that. There is not enough money in our budget to do Jackson Pond. And Jackson Pond, if you remember, we actually went in reverse. So the Jackson Pond was really phase 1 and should have been done first, but due to some other grants that failed, and then now this grant has tied it up, we actually went over and on High Ridge and did phase 2 first, which is the other detention area, which you can see is all complete now and is functioning very well. And so hopefully within maybe, I don't know, maybe another few months, we'll hear something from FEMA about this grant. That project's designed, it's ready to go. School District 45 will be utilizing that particular pond as well. And as part of their proposal to us and discussions would be that they excavate, and correct me if I'm wrong, Director, about 4 feet or so straight down and maybe out just a little bit so that that can encompass the drainage from their new 30,000 square foot building. And by doing that, it saves the school district some money so they don't have to put storage tanks underneath that building. It'll just be either pipes or overflow to the pond. Eventually that pond's going to be done, and when the pond's done, then we can hook up South Michigan, but we can't hook up South Michigan until that water has a place to go. And if you remember, underneath South Michigan, if I'm not mistaken, that sewer separation is 72 inches in diameter. I actually stood in there, and you know, I'm a sort of tall guy. I know you're right.
No.
That pipe was huge, and so it'll be fantastic when that's connected to the pond. So we're almost there. If that grant comes through, we're going to go gangbusters. So thank you, Ron.
I'll fill in a little more too. We originally we had another grant that we had put in for, and it wasn't coming. And we found out a few things. First, throw somebody in the federal government under the bus here a minute, but they were not moving it forward. I guess the guy retired, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, and he was just not moving them forward. So we finally got a hold of our Congressman Krishnamurthy, and that got resurrected. So that's moving a little farther forward. We did have some problem with the application with District 45 because there were some contaminated soils on there, which had to be trucked away, and that's what raised up the prices. 45 did not agree with what we wanted to do with the contaminated soils. So that sort of stopped the process there. But now I see District 45 is going to be digging a hole on their property for their new addition, but I guess the contaminants must not be where they're digging. So that slowed us all down too. So we had a number of things that stood in our way in finishing that project, but now we're getting a little more hopeful, but we've been shot down in the past. But this one is moving forward for this new grant. I think it's closer to 3 million, isn't it? 3 or 4 million. So that's a lot of money. We don't want to lose that grant. So so that's where that's at. So it's just, it turned out to be a whole bunch of different things screwing up getting that grant, the money to do that project. And of course, in the meantime, prices went up. So So a lot of that money, I think, is for hauling away soil, if I remember right. And that's what we were trying not to do. We were trying to encapsulate the soil, which was approved by every engineering firm that we hired and what the school hired, but the school board decided, no, you can't encapsulate it on our property over here. It would have been safer than it is right now. But so that put a little monkey wrench in it too. So, but we're moving ahead. So, okay. So, Kevin, Trustee Patrick, are you finished?
Really quick, I just wanted to say that April 15th is the last day to submit an application to the Villa Park Junior Women's Club for their scholarship. They will be awarding one female Villa Park High School senior a $1,000 scholarship this year. For more information on that, you could visit them on their website, www.vpjwc.org. And again, thank you to all of our first responders, firefighters, police department, as well as all of our essential workers out there. Thank you for everything that you do.
Okay. Thank you. Trustee Shiala?
Yes, I'd just like to take a moment to congratulate and welcome our newest elected officials to the board, Ms. Kumar, Jack Kozar, and Jack Hokery. Look forward to working with you. Nice to see you here tonight, and welcome you aboard. Thank you.
Trustee Kazan.
I'd like to kind of reiterate what Trustee Salella said. Thanks everyone that campaigned, even those that didn't make it. You know, it's a lot of effort to put on a campaign, and you know, we appreciate there were 6 people that were running for trustees for 3 spots, and that was unusual for the last few years. So we appreciate everybody's support. We appreciate the voters that came out, and everyone that ran from school board now all the way down to the trustees, and we appreciate that. Thank you.
Trustee Wagner.
Thank you, President Bolthus. Just a couple things. I want to let the public know that this coming Saturday, April 17th, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., we will be doing, well, the Villa Park Police, in conjunction with CERT, will doing a bike registration on the Prairie Path, and we'll also be doing some distributing some bike safety material, bike rules of the road, tire gauges, etc. So if you may have gotten a new bicycle for Christmas, this is a good opportunity to kind of protect that. We've been told that the police department finds bikes and they don't know who the owners are. So this bike registration event is a nice event. There's a registration number put on there, description of the bicycle, and you can also put a photograph of the bicycle on there as well. And just want to remind the public, I think there'll be a full page devoted to this in Village Matters, that spring sweep is coming on Saturday, May 15th. From 9 a.m. to noon along Home Avenue, and we should have a lot of the same groups will be returning, and we hope to have another additional group called Flat Can that will be participating in. Yeah, they collect aerosol cans with paint, etc. So another opportunity for residents to clean out their storage areas, etc. So, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Tucker?
Just want to remind everybody that there is a Park and Rec meeting tomorrow night at 7 o'clock at Iowa School. Do let the Park and Rec Division know if you are coming. There's limited space so that they can make sure there's enough space for everybody that comes to that meeting. That's all I have for tonight.
Okay. Trustee Murphy?
I have no report tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I just want to, again, thank everybody who ran for office and for congratulations on your election. We have elected Trustee Kumar's here too. So, and Jack's here and Jack. So we got Jack and Jack. So welcome aboard. And we'll go to the thanking the other trustees who are retiring when we get down to our last meeting, even though I thank you all right now too. So I want to give you a report on my call today with the DuPage County Health Department. Unfortunately, as I mentioned, our numbers are going in the wrong way. So I really, I'll give you these numbers, and then the average age of our cases now is continually been going down. We're down to 35-year-olds are the average. The way it is, the age range with the highest infection rate now is the 20 to 39-year-olds, followed by the 40 and 59-year-olds. Then the next one is kind of up. It's the 0 to 19-year-olds. So they're trying to understand. They have a pretty good idea where this is coming from, but we all have to remember we have to continue being safe, because these numbers are going the wrong way. You know, right now our positivity rate in DuPage County is 7.1%. 2 weeks ago it was like 3.2. So it's continuing to go up. Now that's 7.1 is about the same part we were at when we closed down last year in May. So we don't want to go through that again. So I'd just like to stress everybody, please continue following the mitigation methods. We don't want to have to close our businesses down again, because, you know, we're all getting excited. We're just getting a little coming out of it. We're going out. We're getting a lot of us are getting vaccinated. We're going out, feeling more comfortable going out to eat. But really, you still must remember to stay safe. Continue to follow it. Otherwise, we're going the wrong way. We don't want to wind up like Michigan, where the numbers are, what up to now, 12% or 15% up in Michigan? 18? So we don't want that to happen. So some of the contact tracing did show some people had large gatherings for Easter, and they had transmitted the disease to other people. Unfortunately, in that one, I think there was one death from that. And so a lot of times they're probably figuring with the younger kids, high school age, they don't think it's the sports, but it's probably the activities after the sports. They go out somewhere together with their friends, or out to dinner with their family or whatever. But the county is continuing to receive vaccine, not as much as they want. They're getting around 25,000 of them like that, but 25,000. But the projections are we're going to start getting a little less vaccines for the next few months. So, but on the good end, you know, most of the people in the 65 plus rate have been vaccinated. They're up around 72%, somewhere in that area. So that's the good thing. So, but you know, I see all you old people going to the restaurants and going in those places. You really have to be careful. But I know it's kind of difficult because we've been locked up in the house for a long time. No, I just turned my note over. It's 84% of the over 65 have been vaccinated. So please, 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 please continue to exercise the social distancing, wearing your mask, wash your hands. You can, you know, they say you can be with groups, everybody, if your friends, everybody have been vaccinated, you know, but everybody really has to be vaccinated in the group. Otherwise, you got a chance of spreading it. So, and with that, I'll turn it over to the manager. I gave you enough bad news, so, but please, be safe. Continue to wear the mask. Manager Keener.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, I'd just like to update the board and folks in the audience and folks at home. So our fiscal year started January 1st, and you know, as a public entity, our tax revenue is sometimes delayed, and we have to look back several months to update our revenue chart. So just wanted to update the board and folks that so now we're on April 12th, so looking back, our revenues compared to last year at the same time, our revenues are down about $240,000 total, and our expenditures for the same time as compared to last year, which is obviously pre-COVID, our expenditures are down $708,000. So we're just proceeding very cautiously. We understand. We're still not out of the COVID, obviously, with our revenues being down, but our expenditures are down as well. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item 14, which is an executive session. There'd be 5 ILCS 120/2, C1, personnel matters, C2, collective bargaining matters, C5, purchase and lease of property, C6, sale and lease of property, C11, pending litigation, and C21, discussion of closed session minutes. Do I have a motion for executive session? Trustee Ciala?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, do I have a second? Trustee
I'll second
Wagner?
the motion.
Oh, okay. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Wagner?
Yes.
Trustee Patrick?
Yes.
Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee Kazone?
Yes.
Trustee Tucker?
Yes.
Trustee Salela?
Yes.
President Bolfus?
Yes. With that, we'll be going into executive session. We will not be coming out to discuss anything else, so we'll adjourn from executive session. Our next meeting is on the 26th of April at 7 o'clock.